Salutations, everybody. It is Matty here today with episode 182 of the H.A.M Radio Podcast.
And it's me, Karak, with ACG.
Karak, we just had an exciting talk. We did pretty neat things on the horizon, wouldn't you say?
Yes, I would.
Absolutely.
I'm incredibly excited.
Oh,
First time I've been excited in a long time, actually, which is
awesome.
sad, but...
Gonna be awesome. Just a little teaser to start this all off. Anyway, thank you all for joining us for the latest episode of this podcast. If you want to support the show, head over to my Patreon or Karak's. You can flick a buck. If you do so, you can get early access to this podcast. You can also join the Discord, get involved in a lot of conversations. It's a very good time. Anyway, that's pretty much all the introduction stuff. Karak, are you working on any upcoming content that you want to tease, or is it just coasting through into the new year and then we start the heavy review season?
I didn't realize there were a couple games coming out that I got on some lists for, but mostly it's like preparing, like you are for next year, preparing for some stuff on Twitch, doing shit like that. I think I was gonna review Below, but that may not occur depending on how much I can continue to play it.
Ooh.
I'll explain that as we go. I was going to review Ashen, but Ashen, the way I want to review it is not possible, which I'll describe that as well. So, yeah, some shit sort of got held off, actually.
Interesting.
For me.
Yeah, I know that feeling. For me, though, I feel like my hold-offs were like, okay, I would have a review this month if I could do Nintendo content, and then there was their whole creator program. Now that's kind of opened up, and that's no longer a roadblock. But then there's just going to be those months like in February, which we'll talk about, where just the floodgates are completely open. And there's just, now we got to review a Nintendo game too. So I feel you on that one. As for me with upcoming content, I'm just currently chipping away at a lot of games. I've been enjoying my inner casual as of late, as I'll put it. I know casual is not the best term, but like I've been playing a lot of Call of Duty game battles. I've been playing a ton of Star Wars Battlefront 2. Because of some of the new updates that dropped for it. That is something that I still stand by it. I think what EA did was fucking awful, so don't get it wrong. Don't get it twisted. But I always said that game was better than Battlefront 1. For sure. But I only got to level 19, I think, in that game because I dropped it in a heartbeat just because it was so bad. So now a year later, I'm hopping back into it. Just seeing how things are going. The gameplay's still solid. They added like a mode called Hero Showdown, so me and my friend play like 2v2s. In the hero mode. It's kind of like search and destroy from Call of Duty. Really fun. And I've just been enjoying that. That's been a fun time. And I've also been playing because my friend was begging me. He was like, just try it. Just try it, Matt. Just try it. So I downloaded Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. It's like a mobile game, strategy based. It's all right. It's all right. You know, there's clearly a ton of paywalls there. It's not like a Fallout Shelter where you can, you know, easily just keep playing and earning stuff by playing the game. And then you're like, okay, I feel obliged because I've enjoyed it so much. I'll flick a couple of bucks. Like, it's not like that with this game, but it's more Star Wars. So that's kind of been what I've been playing alongside Smash. So with all those games I've been chipping away at, nothing's been like content focused lately, which is kind of nice. It's that time of the year to wind down. You and I are going to play Ashen together at some time. I'd imagine within next week.
We're going to try.
Yeah, we're going to try. And I'd imagine once we get that going, that'll be some content. So that's something to look forward to. But anyway, more importantly for the listener out there, we've got your news. And it starts off with Metro Exodus. So this is a game that kind of went off the radar for a decent amount of time. There was speculation because of a little freeze frame in the trailer that maybe the game was dropping in August. But then we all found out the release date was in February. This week, we just found out that the release date was moved up a week to February 15th, sorry. I almost said February 2015. February 19th, fuck me, I did it, actually. February 15th, 2019. There we go. Numbers. You know what's funny is because I got confused because I had my notebook open for when I write down timestamps for us. And then I had my notes originally open on my phone, which actually had like little blurbs of information that I needed. And so I was like trying to roll off the top of my head. It did not work out. This is why I script a lot of my shit. Anyway, the game has also gone gold. And that's kind of what I wanted to start off this conversation with because it reminded me of Kingdom Hearts 3 where that had gone gold many months ahead of its launch. And now we're seeing another game go gold very early. They move up the release date a week into a more competitive environment, which is a move I personally respect because I feel it shows confidence in the product. It's not like, I remember the Evil Within 1 was the last game that did this, just move it up a week from its original release date. So I imagine this game is completely ready if they're advancing it too, not trying to buy time. What do you feel about this? It going gold early, the trend of that, where the game might be at?
I think the going gold early is the biggest deal to me because it indicates when you go gold that your QA is over. Mm-hmm. So my hope is we're going to play a game that's bug-free, or as bug-free as any game is these days. Mm-hmm. That's actually almost the most important thing to me is doing that. Moving it forward, I do think that there's some kind of contingent, a gamer that likes the Metro games, that it doesn't, like, they'll buy it regardless of what other game is coming out on the same day. Like, you could have like Dragon Age 4, the Dragon Awesoming, like the best game ever, and then Metro, and Metro would still sell. You could have Call of Duty, Metro would still sell. There's something about it. So I think it's cool that they moved it forward, and it just comes out a little bit early for the rest of us. It does make it insane because it's just one more game in a fucking tight period of time.
What else do we have there? We have Anthem is apparently coming out a week after that. I feel like that'll get delayed, though. We have
Crackdown's February.
Yeah, Crackdown. I think we have oh my god, I saw a list the other day. It was a list of these quality games too. I think Resident Evil is in that month. Obviously, Kingdom Hearts is a couple of weeks before that too. But I know that the 15th of February is a very cluttered day. I also feel like it's a move for them to say, okay, we're not on the day where people are deciding whether or not to spend their $60. We're the week after. So most folks will probably choose one of those games from that week. And then the next week, if anyone's ready to pick something, it'll be Anthem. So why don't we add ourselves to that choice list and make it a little bit tougher on the consumer? I always say that, a lot of these companies, to be competitive, they try to force you to make a choice. And now they've added themselves into the mix where on that 15th, if you're one of those gamers who's looking for their next game, because not everyone likes the JRPGs, not everyone likes Disney, so maybe there'll be a lot of folks who do pass on that one, so it's not like anything crazy outside of, I'd imagine, Resident Evil 2 Remake is coming out that might pique some curiosity, so Metro, add that to the list.
And Anthem doesn't really go against Metro in the same way. Like, third-person space shooter, loot explosive space shooter versus like a single player experience like Metro. I think they're pretty safe in moving it and not worrying. Yeah,
I think it's a really good sign though that it went gold early, because I shared this on the podcast I believe last week, was that this is a game I played at E3 and was very unimpressed. Yeah, it was rough. Yeah. It was clunky feeling, and it you want to talk about weighted controls are, as Karak would say, controlling like a bag full of vinegar soaked dicks or something like that. What is that?
Pretty close.
What was it?
I've said it multiple times, but one was a bag full of vinegar soaked dicks.
There we go. Yeah, and you think Red Dead is like that, but the way that Metro controlled, it was like you had 2 cylinder blocks tied to your bag of vinegar soaked dicks on your feet. It was fucking insane. It just did not feel good. It felt like it needed a lot of work. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, how much does, at that time I played it June, so a half a year later, does that iron out all of those technical issues I had, like AI not functioning properly? That I'm unsure of, because maybe AI actually has never been a strong suit for Metro. I mean, Last Light in 2033, excellent games, awesome stories, really great at building an atmosphere. But their weakest link to me was always the AI, where there was that, because it does the typical light and shadow stealth method. So if you're in the shadow, you can't be seen. And it takes it to such a literal aspect where if you are sitting in a shadow, but you're clearly visible, and the enemy's looking right at you, they still can't see you because you are in said shadow.
Right.
There's not levels of like lightness and darkness where they go, okay, if the enemy is looking in this direction and it's on a 6 out of 10 on the brightness bar, that they can see into that corner, they maybe just investigate, versus if it's a 3 out of 10, they'll see you pretty much right away.
Did the gun, I don't remember if you answered this, and I don't remember if I asked, I apologize, but did the guns feel like, was the recoil and all that kind of stuff, did that at least feel good?
Yeah, the gunplay has always been pretty underrated in Metro, I feel, because it almost carries itself like in its Insurgency. You've played that, right?
Okay.
It kind of reminds me of that, where it's not a Call of Duty where you kind of snap in and aim. It's more so like you feel them kind of bring up the gun, set it. When you shoot, there is a pretty substantial kick to it. Exodus had that. I just played 2033 for about like a half hour for a video just to get some footage and reacquaint myself with things. And yeah, man, it had that similar feel that I recalled back from E3. So that was definitely good news. But like I said, I just felt there was some weight to the character in a not good way, right? Because sometimes I feel weight transfers to reality, where it feels like, okay, I am Artyom. I am this human. I'm not, sprinting, having health regen.
Right.
My resources are limited. I probably can't outrun these creatures. There is a good reason why there is weight. I just feel there was so much that you literally felt like you were dragging something behind you the whole time you were carrying your gun. So I hope within those 6 months they didn't iron out stuff like that, because what I did enjoy was the environments were very open. Like I said, it was very reminiscent of Stalker. So if anyone likes Stalker, I'm pretty confident you're gonna have Metro Exodus be up your alley, and you'll likely end up loving the game, because I'm fairly confident they'll nail the story. They've always nailed the stories in those games. Yeah. I feel like from 2033, which was solid, to Last Light, which really just upped things in every category. 4A is super underrated. So I'm pumped to see when this game drops. It's definitely like, I think for all of us, when we look at these very crowded days, we have those priority lists. And for me, I feel Metro is like my number one priority on the 15th, and then everything afterwards is kind of second. What would be your number one priority on that day?
It'll probably be Metro, just because I did not get to experience. I did Last Light, but I didn't do, what was it, 2033?
Yeah.
Was that? Yeah. So, and I like Last Light. I didn't absolutely love it, but I've always liked the atmosphere of it. And I remember there were particular scenes where I was like, oh man, this looks fucking amazing. This place gets my imagination going. Mm-hmm. The idea of this one, where supposedly you're on a train, I think, and you're going to, it's not open world as much as it is massive open places.
Location.
At train stops. Yeah. And so I like that idea. I've always been a big lover of travel in games like Mass Effect. I love traveling to different planets. Mm-hmm. There's something about the travel that like lights my fire, instead of like loading, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that being a loading screen, but I like the idea of, I'm in a train, I'm going to this place. So that excites me probably more than anything else.
It's something with open world, man. It's not that it's bad by any means. I always tell people this. It's just there's this fatigue, because there's so much of it, that seeing a game like, The Outer Worlds, now Metro, because I had forgot about the train part. Very good point. Kingdom Hearts, games like that are open area but aren't open world. That it gives a level of focus to each location, and allows the developer to kind of have a vision for each one and flesh it out as much as possible, instead of what I feel like what happens with open world games is there's so many good ideas, but certain great ideas get watered down to average ones, because there's so many dynamic elements in the world that they might not be able to accomplish things that they could in a more condensed space, just because of everything that happens, and there's so much data being processed. It's just really tough to do. I mean, of course, you'll have the open worlds like a Red Dead Redemption 2, which is insane to every extent, and despite it being set in an era where it feels like nothing would happen, it feels like every 10 seconds you're being stopped for something unique and organic. But obviously those games are like a dime a dozen. They hardly happen. So it's really nice to see games like Metro and the other ones I listed earlier in that vein make a comeback. Yeah, it's something that I was happy to expect.
I was happy to hear Outer Worlds wasn't full open world. That was sort of cool when they were like, okay, don't expect it to be like this, but more like KOTOR 2, KOTOR 1, Mass Effect. Those are the exact kind of games I like. One of the problems with open world for me is that if it's open world and I know I can travel to fucking Zimbabwe, then what happens is I end up usually traveling map point to map point. I'm like or icon to icon. Right. But if it's a giant location that I know I can sort of clear, I sort of can say I have 100%ed this location. Like I've looked at everything and then move on. I like that. There's a sense of accomplishment that I never get in open world games that I can get in those games. So to me, that actually excites me to like park the train, fucking do whatever you need to do in this big open area, but then know, once again, like you said, that fucking a horse from 8 miles away isn't going to run over here, spook a bad guy. You know, like where shit starts getting a little weird, and you're like, yeah, this is because it's too dynamic. Sometimes,
Far Cry 5,
certain games.
It's the first one I think of.
Yeah, Far Cry 5 was, dude. Far Cry 5 was just an anarchy generator. I mean, it was the weirdest shit. Like, and like when you jump in a truck, they immediately all knew where you were. Like every bad guy knew that you were in a truck. Oh, it was terrible. And so I feel like with this one, there can be some really cool stuff. Especially, I don't know if you can upgrade your train, but I think that would be cool if, like, you know, what if you killed an animal and you get to fucking mount its head or something? I'm just thinking off the top, but I'm like, when you have a space that moves like that, it allows for customization that open world doesn't always work out so well.
I feel like it allows for games to be more digestible, right? Or you can digest them easier, rather. Because not everyone has time for these huge open world games. I know some do, but not everyone's into the 70-hour completionist experience that a lot of these open world games encourage. Some of them have time for 20-hour adventures where, you know, each area... Karak, I'll tail off your idea a little bit here. Let's say you could mount stuff on your wall that you go to one location, there's a special bear that if you take down, you can mount to the wall. And then in the next location, there's a deer. And it feels like every area, you can kind of carve out some... It gives you a sense of accomplishment. How about that? Because, okay, today I finished area 2. I'm going to go to bed now. Go home, or go to bed, go to work, come home, dinner. All right, I got 2 hours tonight. I'm gonna start area 3 instead of looking and saying, fuck, I got this whole humongous world that hits you with so much at once that it's very hard for some gamers to just want to tackle it. And that's why we see, if you check your trophy lists, you check your achievement completion list, you'll see so many people complete Act 1, 90%, complete Act 2, 65%. It's like, well, why the fuck did everyone stop? Because they probably loved it. They're just like, fuck, I don't have time. And obviously, even if you do have time, then this game caters more to you, right? Because... you can squeeze this in with something else. There's nothing bad about it being a more condensed, quality over quantity focus. I feel like developers playing to their strengths is smart. I always encourage innovation, evolving, doing something new. But, we brought up the Outer Worlds with Obsidian. Now we look at Metro. Games like that where I don't know if those series necessarily would work as open world titles. And it's like, I like the idea of them sticking with a KOTOR 2 design, we'll say, and focusing on just planet to planet or area to area. I like it.
Right. Yeah, me too.
It's smart.
Yeah, I think overall it fits in with, it allows some open world games to be out there, and if you're attracted to those, that's great. But it offers something for everybody.
I agree. Anyway, next on the list, we've got Dishonored 2 and Death of the Outsider, 2 games I truly did not expect to be talking about in December of 2018. Right? It just came out of nowhere. And I know it's hard for some folks to talk about Bethesda in a positive manner, but I think they did a good thing here. So for those who did not catch it, there has been a free update added to both Dishonored 2 and Death of the Outsider. It gets a black and white mode. So kind of like it has a Sin City look, so you'll still see like the red blood. It looks awesome. Then there's a Mission Plus mode, which also got added. So instead of New Game Plus, you can enter each missions with a full kitted out Corvo or Emily. Is that her name?
No, I thought Emily was from BioShock. Or is that?
That's Elizabeth?
That's Elizabeth. Yeah, I don't remember what her name was.
Oh man, I'm gonna hope it's Emily. I'll check in a second because I'm on a roll here. But anyway, you can go back with all of your unlocks and explore and experiment with certain levels. I don't get that because there's a New Game Plus, so you kind of do the same thing. But I guess it's like, let's say you get to the end of your second playthrough, you have absolutely everything unlocked. You can go to the middle of the game and say, let me try this here. So that's allowed now. And they also added an Imperial Assassin Pack, which adds some extra bone charms, collectibles. Apparently there's a letter in there. It's definitely an update I want to give a look. And Bethesda, for all the wrong they did with 76, I do give them kudos for games like Dishonored 2, funny enough, all these are from Arcane, but Dishonored 2, Death of the Outsider, and Prey, which just got its Typhon Hunter DLC, the multiplayer expansion. These are games that necessarily didn't perform super well, but even at this point now, we're seeing more content roll out for it. I really, really appreciate that kind of stuff, because maybe it just seems like kind of a fun thing that they're doing. Not even, hey, let's stoke the fires here. Let's get money rolling in with this. Let's get people buying it. It's more so just, hey, we had this kind of lying around. Here you go. And I like that approach personally.
Yeah, I think it's very cool to see those games being mentioned now, because I'm going to tell you, I would never have expected. Maybe Death of the Outsider, I could have expected something because it was a little later, but it was really interesting to see those being mentioned now. And a lot of people being able to get them now when they're patched up, because like my issue with Dishonored was more just buggy at the starting. And so that's, a lot of those have been patched. And now a couple new modes that might just cause somebody to look and go, you know what, I'll go get it.
That's the thing, is that I remember when I made my review for Dishonored 2, a lot of people agreed, but a lot of people were also like, what about the bugs, Matty? What about the performance? And I played it on PC, all right? Like, I saw the videos. I did not deny that the performance was bad in my review, but I didn't have issues. That's the thing. It was really, I got lucky, I'll say that much, but because of that, I think I just had a general more positive experience with it, because I know the launch was really messy for a lot of people, and a lot of folks were sorely disappointed, because Arcane does do very good work, in my opinion. Even Prey, which I had my gripes with, I feel really has put itself in a more positive light, where I'm pretty glowing about it now because of the Moon Crash DLC. I absolutely adored that thing, man. That was one of my favorite things of this year. But yeah, dude, I really like this black and white mode too. That's a cool little touch. That's the thing with Dishonored. We were just talking about games of what would feel like something of the past, a relic of the past rather, with these more focused areas and hubs. And this is another thing, is getting additional modes. So now Dishonored 2 has a black and white mode, a new game plus, a mission plus. There was something else in Death of the Outsider that I found interesting. I think maybe it might have been, or no, it was both Dishonored 2 and Death of the Outsider. Its difficulty customization was insane. Like, I thought that Tomb Raider had some really good difficulty customization, but what Dishonored does with all the options that are available to tweak your playthrough, it's fucking incredible.
I hope we get that with every game.
I know, one day I do too, because I think Tomb Raider was a nice step in the right direction. Like, okay, you might know how to get from point A to point B, leave your exploration the same. You might have played a lot of shooters in your day. All right, bump that up to hard. But puzzles may not be your strong suit. All right, bump that down to easy, and Lara will give you a couple more hints. There's additional audio there. I can't stress enough how awesome it is to have that choice during your experience, especially if you're reviewing a game and you're on a puzzle and you're like, fucking A, I'm stuck.
Dude, we talked about this because it was Shadow, where that fucking water wheel puzzle, and I was just like, what the fuck? Because some puzzles you just don't grab. And I also have friends where if they hit a puzzle like that, it's not going to take very long before they look at all the other offerings out there of games, free and otherwise, where they're just like, I'll come back to it some other day, or what have you. So the ability to adjust those is just massive. It adds so much to it. And I think every fucking game should have it. Like, if you want to adjust, how much health enemies have, if you want to adjust, how many AI routines they have, you want to adjust puzzles and how they show up, you should be able to do that. And all it does is, I think, increase the chances of people enjoying the title.
I agree. And we're seeing kind of a trend with it, because Nier also had some cool chips that allowed certain parts of the experience to be customized, to be a little easier for some out there. So we're seeing it become more and more of a thing, which is really good, just based off what we said. Would there be anything that you would add to said, while we're on the conversation, said difficulty that might be good for new and veteran players?
I would like most shooters to have a setting that doesn't allow you to reload unless you're out of bullets. Because I even spam that. Like, I absolutely do. If there's a game where I know there's a bunch of bad guys and I'm like, bang, 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 if I know that there's a moment, and I've died because of this, I'll be like, fucking reload, like I have ADD. I'll just bang, 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 reload, bang, 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 reload, bang, bang, bang. And to me, games are already starting to do the audio cue, where when you get to the last 3 bullets in a clip, it'll go like, chick, chick, chick. You have the 3
sounds.
you'll go, okay, I know I'm at the end. I would love for things like that much minutia. Now, I know that balancing that's a bitch, but I personally believe if you have a warning that's like, warning, this may negatively impact your gameplay, or this may bring undesirable results, I would rather have more options than less. I would adore that. I would also love the ability to turn off particular skills, like nom vision in Mafia 3. The ability to fucking, that's all I don't even remember if I think it was called nam vision, but you could, as the main character, you could see guys on the other side of walls and shit in that game. Right. You know, like the Predator. I would like to be able to remove those if I wanted to. Or let's say I'm running around, I'm just one hitting everybody. You know, we've seen this in a lot of shooter games where it takes 18 bullets but only one knife stab. Right? So you find out, oh, I'll just take a couple shots, stab this guy, take a couple shots, stab this guy, take a couple. I would like it if, like, you know, you could figure out a way to have that do less damage, or somehow change those kind of situations. It's cool and it looks amazing, and that's why they're there. But sometimes, some games I end up playing, I find myself enjoying less when I find out that my knife does way more damage than my shotgun, and that happens almost all the time. In almost every game I've played, that melee weapon, your standard weapon, never breaks, never runs out of fucking ammo, is the kill-all weapon in most games.
Yeah.
Chainsaw in Gears. Once you got up to somebody with a chainsaw, it was just like game over. You became invincible, right? So other bullets didn't even hurt you while you were doing it. Like, just that kind of shit. I'd love to be able to tweak those.
Yeah. Speaking of difficulty in AI and stuff, one game that has some of the best AI I think I've ever seen is actually Smash Bros. Ultimate. I was really impressed. Yeah, the new one. Yeah. They do things like edge guarding, back airs. I mean, it's like it's the only fighting game I think I've ever played where it, as close as possible, represents another player.
A player.
Yeah.
Another player. It's
insane, especially when you look at one of the games that's on my Game of the Year list, like Dragon Ball FighterZ, which has awful AI. You know, you've played the story, so you know.
Yeah.
And they just don't challenge you, even on the hardest difficulty. It's insane to see what Smash Bros. AI does to replicate an actual player. Not that it's perfect, but if you're like me and you're trying to get better, you can just play the computer on a high difficulty and learn how to spot dodge at the right time, learn how to air dodge at the right time. When to do grabs, the way they will ground slam you and then do an air combo. It's actually, it's a very humbling learning process that I've never received from the AI in a game, even like Injustice, right? I don't think the AI there is bad, but Smash Bros just does something that replicates a real life player, and it's amazing, and it makes it for difficulty tweaking to be really fun. Like, okay, I'll play on 6 this time. You know, there will be some just computer standing still moments, but for the most part, they're going to be fighting me. Okay, now I feel like I'm ready with this character. I'm going to fight on 9. And it's insane.
Unreal Tournament, I think I've told you this story, but 1999, the first one, they had a setting. So it was multiplayer and single player, and they had a setting for the bots, and one of the settings was jumpiness. And the reason why is because back then people would leap a lot because it meant headshots were harder. And so I was just hitting random, and I was playing the game, and this is the first online game I had been involved with, and I somehow forgot that I wasn't online. So I spent 12 hours playing, because they also one-linered you. They would talk bad to you if they killed you. So I consistently thought I was playing real people.
Wow.
I was that confused by it. I was like, bang, the guy was jumping. I was like, fucking this one guy, he knows what the fuck he's doing. He's jumping around like it's fucking and then I was like, oh, I'll jump. And then he was jumping. Then they were doing like double shots and all this crazy shit. And it was like 12 hours later, my friends came over and we started playing it. And I'm like, dude, these guys are good. And one of my friends who had the game was all, you're actually on highest level bot match. You're not actually playing people. When you set the level up, you weren't telling the world, I want high level people. You were telling the game high level bots. And he's like, because they one-liner you and they talk bad to you and they know specific little movements, they look real. And I fucking adore that. The more real and like crazy, the jumping thing, not so much now in this day and age, but the more real the flanking, because I'll notice that in games when I'm firing a lot. In movies, they'll be like, lay down suppressing fire. You do it in a video game, and most of the time the bad guys just sit there. And they let the fire go over, then they pop up. But in some games, if you lay down fire, you'll start to see like the AI run around a corner. And you're like, that dude's going to try to pincer me. Like that's exactly what he's doing, is trying to flank me. I love that shit.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a big deal to me. AI is huge.
I agree. It's gradually improving a ton. So that's definitely good news for those who are trying to get more of an online experience, I guess you could say, through single player games. So that's definitely good stuff. Anyway, moving on to our next topic, we've got some Nier Automata. So for those who are not aware, this is my favorite game of one of my favorite games of all time, rather. They announced the Game of the YorHa edition, and I had to grab the press statement that came from Yoko Taro because it was just bonkers. So, he says...
Oh, yeah, this is the numbers one?
Yeah. And
go for it.
I'm going to read it just so that we can...
This is amazing.
Try to break this down. Square Enix has asked me for a comment to mark the announcement of the Nier Automata Game of the YorHa edition. Now that you mentioned it, Nier Automata was first released on the 23rd of February 2017 in Japan, 7th of March 2017 in America, and the 10th of March 2017 in Europe. I have noticed something bizarre and fascinating about these numbers. If you write down these dates in long form as 2017-02-23, 2017-03-07, and 2017-03-10, then add all three numbers together, you get 605-10840. If you take that total, split the digits down the middle, making 6051 and 0840, then subtract the second number from the first, unbelievably, you get 5211. That's right, a number completely devoid of all meaning, just like real life, isn't it? Over and out.
Yeah, it's fucking awesome. It sounds like a joke I'd say in a review.
Right.
Like, it's just, like, when I first read it, I was all, what the fuck? And then I tried to figure out the math, because I ignored his devoid of all meaning. I saw that 5-2, and then I started looking at that and going, the fuck does that mean? And then finally read the ending of it. I was just like, what the fuck? The problem is, though, Matty, they didn't patch the PC version of the original. This pisses me off just a little bit that they've got a Game of the Year edition and they haven't taken care of the original PC edition's issues, and they're pretty big. So that's the only issue I have with this game. Otherwise, the game is fucking awesome. I don't know what Game of the Year is supposed to have, do you? What's it supposed to have in it?
That's the thing. The game hasn't had a ton of DLC.
Right.
So that's why when I saw it, I thought there was like a complete edition or something like that already, which came with the DLC. Let me see if there's anything out there on it. Nier.
Wouldn't it be awesome if they're like another storyline?
I would be very happy about that. Let's
see. The number of people who reviewed that game, I still remember people were playing it for like 5 hours and were like, it's already over. And you're all, oh my fucking God. I know to put this person on a list.
The fucking game actually tells you to. It's like, the game's not over yet.
Clear. It's very clear, yeah.
Let's see here. This version of the game comes with all previously released DLC as well as the base game. This includes the bunch of random number DLC, the 4 extra pod designs, Grimoire Weiss pod, Retro Gray pod, Retro Red pod, and Cardboard pod, and a Machine Mask accessory. DLC didn't add any story content, however, so you're fine getting the standard edition today if you don't care about the extras. I do remember Yoko Taro actually saying that Square Enix didn't allow him to do extra story DLC, but they wanted to see if the game would be successful first, I believe, and now they know it's successful. So, I imagine this is just something to kind of pad it along, catch folks up for the inevitable announcement of some type of sequel.
Right.
Or follow-up, rather, because this is the sequel to the original Nier. Says Xbox One's... Oh, that's what it was. Become as Gods Edition already includes the same content. So far, Nier Automata sales have topped 3.5 million copies shipped and sold digitally. So really, that's actually spectacular when you think about it. For a very... How niche that game is. Yep. That's ridiculously good.
It was a ridiculously good game. So it deserves it.
It does deserve it. Just that's a game that screams to me, all right, it's an amazing game. We're going to peg it as one of those games that just looks great, plays great, but does not sell well. Just because it's very JRPG-ish, I guess, right? That just doesn't appeal to everyone. It's like being able to look up the skirt of 2B and get a trophy for it and stuff like that. You know, just I feel like that's something that would just dissuade people.
And aesthetically, you know, the wasteland isn't the prettiest at times. I felt that it used negative spaces very well, but I could, you know, I know a lot of people are like, man, it's sort of ugly at times. But then you'd get into the fucking carnival level and later some of the bosses. You get into the sand level, which some people I know reviewed the game hadn't even got to. And that's when, like, it nails it. And then, of course, the next stories. And you start going around and experiencing different things.
And then a New Game Plus content is fucking insanely good.
Yeah, it's crazy. I still, though, think it's crazy that they're doing a Game of the Year edition. Just overall. Just because, like, it doesn't feel like there's a lot there to say Game of the Year edition without some big announcement of what it would be. But
yeah, I had bought that DLC too, so for me it was very strange when I played it. I was like, it's just like a little tournament thing.
Yeah,
it's very weird.
I didn't even get a chance to experience the DLC.
It's not very good. It's and that's coming from someone who adores the base game. It's not very good. Like, the strength of the game is obviously its combat and its story, but part of the fun of the combat is when they mid-battle humanize in some way these androids and tie them to the overall story, and this just doesn't do any of that. It just goes like, all right, go fight shit.
In a weird way, I feel, even though I like Neo, and even though I like Dark Souls, and even though I've liked a lot of those games, that the combat system in that game, I don't know how to describe it. It just looked so much cooler. Because I love Neo, and I was playing with Kirasagama, so like the chain, which was such a unique weapon.
Right.
But like I told you the last podcast, like the fight before the big musical score and in the darkness, and just like how everything worked together, and even how like her animations. Like I remember the first time she ran. And being like, so you'll see a lot of characters in games run, and they look like they're not really touching the ground. Like you can, and in fact, sometimes in games you'll see where like they're clipping wrong, and they're not really hitting the ground. But when you watch her, she looks just like the female Terminator in Terminator 3. Loke, I think was her name, where she runs, but there's no like exertion other than the force into the ground. Like her run was awesome. Like it looked. Everything about the way she moved looked like an android would move that was mimicking a human that wouldn't get tired no matter what. So you were able to just be like, and it looked like she was like pounding into the ground. Everything was so great. I just feel that despite all that, there's not enough for a Game of the Year edition. Like it's almost like one of those, it's almost like they would put, Mr. Matty gave it a 10 out of 10, so we're doing a Game of the Year edition, and we'll post Mr. Matty's accolade on the bottom, right?
Yeah, honestly, that's probably
Mr. Matty plays.
It's the accolade edition, really.
Yeah, with some stamps.
Yeah, I agree with the running animation. I've always thought that Platinum Games is one of the best animation teams in the industry, just because if you look at in slow-mo at some of the combat moves that you pull off, like watching how effortlessly you'll swing a sword down, attach it to your foot, and then like your character will kind of swing their foot up and over, and the way they make it work and feel believable, even though it's so supernatural in terms of flexibility and just how quick the motions happen, it's superb what they do. But when you say that their running is amazing, it reminds me that their legs move and their arms pump like anyone running, and it's a very believable animation, but they always have their backs perfectly erect and straight. Like you said, it's kind of like they're androids, you know. They're
and I don't know if that was on purpose, but if they had done the thing, I think I would have not liked it as much. I just don't know any other. It was like that one little element that it was an android. It was the one, like if something's that big and strong, certain things it needs to do would be different than a person's would be. Even the anatomy is just a tiny bit different. And it was so good.
I loved going around that world because it was, I mean, you could get on animals, but there was no vehicles. So you were just fucking darting through everything in that game.
All the time.
And it just felt once again, like you were just this robot, just fucking.
Also, one of the best fictional upgrade systems ever, with the fucking CPU memory, the amount of memory you have. Oh man, when that came up, people don't realize a little bit of fiction goes a fucking long way for me.
I agree.
And like when I first got the CPU upgrade, and you're like, oh shit, it takes RAM, and you got to figure out how much RAM and what you want to put in. Oh fuck, I was in love from that moment on.
I agree, because that was one of my biggest praises for the review of this game, was how everything was designed to connect to the story. Even the menus, the main menu, when you respawn, the way you came out of a pod, you were just your memory in another new body.
Yeah.
Things like that. And that's why all your chips were on the ground and you had to go back to your body and pick them up again if you did. That type of stuff, man. It just all built the world and made me buy into the fiction completely.
Here's the thing. Nier 3, though. I don't know what they would do with it. That's the thing I've been wondering, because Nier 1 was nothing like Nier 2. Fantasy, and then you jump to sci-fi, high sci-fi. So I'm wondering, like, if we do see the if this is the inevitable bump in sales, so that they can push on to a third one. Like, what would they even do? Would they, like, what story would they try to tell? And I'm sure it'd be crazy, because it's the way he does things.
That's right.
But I can honestly say I sort of would miss the androids. I would sort of miss the futuristic world. If they do a Nier 3, I think I just really liked Automata, and I'm a little tentative to know what they would do with a sequel.
How they would
go about it.
Without spoiling anything, I think thematically it would be about rebuilding.
Oh, you do?
I do. Yeah, I think.
But what? So you in that time frame?
A little bit after, because I feel like
a little bit after.
The whole story of Automata was about truth, uncovering who you are, self-awareness, existentialism. And then the third one, now you have all your answers. It's like, okay, let's say we're continuing from there. Where do you go? I'd say rebuilding yourself, making a name for yourself, proving your humanity, that type of stuff. Especially because of the way it ended. I don't want to say too much, but I feel like there's a reason they made that, we'll say, that decision.
Right.
I feel like because of that, they wanted to continue some type of theme. So, with that being said, that's where I personally would guess they'd go. How would they go about that? Story-wise, it's hard to suggest. Mechanically, I could have some ideas, but once again, that gets into spoiler territory. But you know what? Good. You know what? Instead of holding ourselves back a little bit, we'll just do a little spoiler warning right here. I'll write it down for the description, but for those of you who do plan on playing Nier Automata, skip ahead to the next timestamp, and I want to be responsible for ruining the game for you. So once again, if you plan on playing Nier Automata, do not listen any further, because I'm going to talk about the ending. All right, I'm going to do a countdown. You better skip ahead. 3, 2, 1. All right, so at the end, you know that 2B and 9S are still alive. So my guess would be if we're going to go with that rebuilding theme, we know YorHa was completely a lie, and they're like, we're going to the moon, or there's a base on the moon, we're helping humanity, we're fighting for that. What if they built that into a real cause, and the theme was like building your own YorHa?
That's what I was just wondering what you were going to say. Yeah, that's true. That's what
I was thinking.
Cool. Yeah, that makes sense. Like if they were like, okay, it was a lie, but now we're going to make it not a lie. Mm-hmm. We're going to make it a thing.
With the way games try to go online nowadays, and I'm sure Square Enix is seeing all the money symbols pop up now, I wouldn't be too surprised if the game kind of went online. And because like we saw, for example, the Ninja Turtle game was online co-op. Awful game, but it was online co-op. So I was thinking, imagine if as you built your own version of YorHa, your friends joined your YorHa and you could fight on missions together and actually like assign and pretty much rebuild humanity.
Okay.
Right? And recruit those, maybe go out on missions, and you know how there's that rebel base, or resistance rather base, and it's just a base full of humans. It's like, imagine if you took that and grew
as
that.
Your main, and yeah.
That would be cool. I think that would be the logical way to go. But I'm sure there's people who have analyzed the story deeper than I have. Because right now it doesn't come to mind like if there's any remaining villain characters that might serve as an obstacle or someone that would just be a clear goal to take down.
I just keep thinking that director, Yoko
Taro, yeah.
Taro. I just keep thinking he's the type of developer to say it's not going to have any connection.
Yeah, like it's very well.
You know
possible.
what I mean? Like just like it's called Nier Automata, and it's like in a fucking fantasy upside down planet world, and you're doing this and that. For some reason I feel like it seems like he's one of those guys that wants to fuck around and do his goddamn answer right there for the PR announcement. It feels like it could be crazy. What would even be is if 3 is announced and those numbers mean something.
Yeah, right. Like when I saw those numbers, I said I wouldn't be surprised if there was just a little Easter egg in the third one.
Yeah, like what if there's a door you can't open and you enter the certain numbers or whatever, and it's like, you know, you have some character you get to talk to, something like that.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's inevitably coming. It's just a matter of when.
I would
at the
assume
beginning
so.
of 2017, so I'd imagine if we're gonna get an announcement, it'll be sometime later next year for probably a 2020 release, or maybe it's their last release and they're trying to do it to hold over until the console cycle renews.
Oh, right.
So we'll see. That's one I'm unsure of. And this is coming out in February as well.
Jeez.
I know, right? Crazy. Okay, now welcome back if you skipped ahead and didn't want to listen to any spoilers, because we are moving on to Smash Brothers. So I got an interesting little blurb here from Forbes. We're talking about their sales because they're pretty bonkers. So Forbes goes on to say, if you remember, Pokemon Let's Go shifted 661,240 units, and that in turn boosted Switch sales during the same period to 200,850 units. In comparison, the PS4 and PS4 Pro only sold 8,922 and 8,867 units respectively. I don't think that's such a big surprise because the PS4 has only sold so much that how much more can it sell to the small amount of people who don't have it, really, when you look at gaming. But anyway, still, pretty big jump for Nintendo. And they say it's also worth putting the Japanese sales of Switch into context, as most weeks it sells about 50,000 units or thereabouts. So when Smash Bros. Ultimate, the figures have gone up a few notches. Specifically, Smash Bros. Ultimate has sold 1.2 million units since its Japanese launch, and the Switch has jumped to 281,222 sales in the same period. What a gigantic fucking leap. That's crazy.
I think it's also not only returning to a Nintendo title, which all their Nintendo titles do well. I also think a lot of it has to do with the fact of just how much shit there is in that game. Because when I was covering at E3 and they did the announcement, I think it was E3 that they did the announcement for that one. And I remember just sitting there the entire time, and I'm not a massive Smash Brothers fan at all. And I was just like, what the fuck? Because they just kept talking, right? Like half the time somebody would be like, Master Chief Collection, coming soon. And they walk off. And these guys are all, we're going to show you about 800 billion things that are in this. And there's just stages and characters and characters and mixed characters. And now Persona, there's all this shit. And I think that gamers will reward that. They will just, at some point, there's a tipping point. Like Red Dead. There's so much that there's a tipping point where people are just like, I am for sure getting that. Like, and they got to it with that game. And it is definitely going to be their top seller. Yeah. That's my belief.
I was stunned because a lot of folks were saying, oh man, you know, investors aren't buying into the Switch. It's not going to sell that well this holiday. Last year was much better for them. And I'm just sitting here thinking, what the fuck? Like, it's Smash Brothers. It's Smash Brothers, and granted, it's not the new gen Pokemon, but it's a new Pokemon game on Switch. And you're trying to tell me that's not going to move systems, those two together?
Right.
I couldn't believe that people didn't buy into that. I'm personally not surprised, and I don't say that with confirmation bias or an ego. I'm just very shocked that there was some doubt that these games would not move hundreds of thousands of systems.
Yeah.
Because they are flagship IPs connected to Nintendo. It may be a Let's Go title connected to Pokemon Go, and it may not be the most competitive Smash Brothers, but it's still a roster. It's gigantic and really caters to single player. But holy fuck, man! I mean, it's still Smash and it's still Pokemon, right? It's insane.
Yeah.
That there was not belief in that.
People slept on it for whatever reason.
Yeah.
The people who think that it wasn't going to do one sort of just slept or didn't do their fucking homework and realize that like it is their flagship title. If not, I mean, I guess Mario, Smash Brothers, Donkey Kong hasn't had a real Donkey Kong in I don't know how long.
Yeah, they just re-released Tropical Freeze. I think it was this year, and that was it.
Yes,
and
that was it.
They did new
what
Super
other one?
Mario
Zelda,
Brothers,
of course.
Yeah, Zelda.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing is, dude, if I was talking to you and we were on the street and you were telling me about good Nintendo games, if you described to me Zelda and you described to me Smash Brothers, there wouldn't even be a comparison on which one I would probably want to get, because like Smash Brothers is the epitome of there's something there pretty much for everybody, where Zelda's like Zelda. Zelda is pretty happy infecting itself with all the old stuff of Zelda and all this old mythology, all their old terms. It's pretty okay with that. Still made it more casual, but it's still okay with that. Smash Brothers is like, look at this amazing shit. Right. And continue looking, because now we're going to show you another 20 minutes of amazing shit. And I also do believe, how many stages does that game have?
Over 100, I think.
That's dude, every complaint I ever get about a fighting game, every single one, is why is it that DLC does not include new stages? Every time. That game, even in Injustice, people were like, oh, I love the multi-universe and all that shit, but they were the same stages just being adjusted. And the fact that there's so many stages, it means every single time you play, you could play 100 times and have a completely different stage. That is unheard of.
Yep.
Like, unheard of.
That's what I was thinking, because I'll be completely real. I am loving this game, but off the bat, I was a little confused, because I had come off of Soul Calibur, which had the arcade create-your-own-player mode, and it had a similar archetype to World of Light. They kind of based challenges in the levels off the mission you were doing in I think it was called the mission mode, or was it Soul Libra? I'm not sure, but still, Soul Calibur had a similar thing, and no one really lost their mind over it. And then I went to Smash Brothers, and I'm like, this is kind of not the same, because Smash Brothers has a far larger amount of variety, but I was like, this is the same idea, so why are people losing their minds over one thing and not the other? I think part of it's nostalgia, not just for Smash Brothers, but also the spirits in the spirit mode, the way they tie them to the spirits attached to the characters. Really, really interesting stuff. Like, they take a Metal Gear, and then they make Greninja metal, and they give him, like, a color scheme to match that Metal Gear, and they put the music from Metal Gear in the background on the Metal Gear stage, and they give him, like, a rocket launcher as a weapon for starters, so he's supposed to mimic a Metal Gear in every way. It's very imagination driven. It requires the player to do a little buying in, but in a way where it's like, oh, that's creative. Like, I like how they did that. So that's where I think a lot of the love starts, on the single player end of thing, or on the story end of things. But yeah, like you said, you know, especially because there are like the Omega stages, which are just flat. They remove all the little barriers and stuff for you to jump on. So there's not only 100+ stages, but there's 100+ variations, and there's hundreds of tracks, I think, of music. I don't know hundreds, but like tons of tracks of music, each one representing each fighter or stage you're on. Like,
and the DLC all adds new music for those.
Exactly. It's a personality driven game. And what's amazing is it's also a fun fighter. And every character plays differently and has like their own toolkit that's fun to pick up and master, which is something I've never had. Where usually I'm not the best at Smash, but as I start to get better at a fighting game, I get to that point, that climax, and I just stop playing. But with Smash, because there's so many characters that are interesting to master, almost a little bit like Injustice, how I felt, I'll be honest, even though I'm not a huge fan of that. You know, I wanted to be good at so many characters in that game because I had like an attachment to them, right? And I think Smash kind of builds itself off of that.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I honestly feel that it was just, there's so much. Like I rarely get that stunned by an announcement, but I remember, and there's even video, people like clipped my Twitch where I'm just all, what the fuck? Because I just kept going like, what the fuck? I don't even understand. I mean, and that's the thing is, I felt the same way of all things about Master Chief Collection, which is why I brought it up, because I remember when that was announced, people were like, whoa, what the fuck? All the games in one, blah, blah, blah. And there, and that turned out terribly, but there was so much that you're just like, holy shit, that's such a deal. And I think when it comes to a Smash Brothers, let's say you like 10% of the stages. That is still an insanely higher number of stages.
Still more than most fighters.
Than most fighters. And if you said, I like 10% of the fighters, if there's 100 fighters and there's 10 of them left, that's still 8 to 12 is what a lot of fighting games release with.
Mm-hmm.
That is insane. And that doesn't include the variations and the total change-ups. And to me, it does come to this point to where fans will pay you back in kind. They will be like, oh fuck, and they will tell people. Also, I know what you mean about Soul Calibur, even though I wasn't as big of a fan. I know what you mean. Like, people weren't freaking out because it did some of the same stuff, which you were a little surprised. But I will say, I felt that Soul Calibur was stale a lot of the times, or dry.
Yeah, because like they did the slippery stage, for example, and you're like, this is cool, and then it did it like 5 times in a row.
Yeah, and you had the little novella that you read, right? But with Smash Brothers, it's like, boom, bitches, hundreds of shit, pick your guy, go. And instead, it's focused on what the player was doing versus this story mode. And even in the arcade mode, sometimes, and you and I talked about this, where you have the clash mode. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you've got that, and it's cool, but also the tendency with Soul Calibur, with the swords leaving huge arcs and stuff like that, it can actually get a little visually like, what the fuck? Like, what is happening? There's a lot of clashing and colors. With Smash Brothers, it's the same way, but it's a 2D fighter. And I think with that, it allows for clarity that it just doesn't exist on 3D fighting games. I don't know why, but I can see, even with the small characters, I can sort of see what's occurring better than a lot of times with like a super amazing move in Soul Calibur, where you're like, and you flip them up in the air and you land on them in the air and you sword strike them. It looks cool 1 or 2 times, but after that I get a little numb. And I've been watching Smash Brothers and because I don't own it, and I've never once been numbed by what's going on. Instead, I'm just constantly like, what the fuck? There's just so many people doing so many things, and everybody's playing different characters every time they play. Like, how the fuck is that possible in a game today? Like, the resources needed. It's the Red Dead of fighting games. It's like where they're just like, we're throwing all our resources in there, and you fuckers, when you leave, will not want another one for a long time, or not feel like you deserve one for a long time.
Absolutely, yeah. And especially because, like, I think with such a large roster, if someone's going to buy in just because they go, okay, there's 70 plus characters, there's got to be one out there I'm good with.
Right.
One out there. And that's all folks need sometimes. They just want to be good with one character. That's why they call them mains. You want to be good with one character. That's all it is. So that, like you said, dude, they all have like final smashes. They all have stages. They all have music, then the spirits. And then you got some of the special modes on the side, customizing your own Mii fighter. It's just like, holy fuck, okay. I feel like, for me, I'm still unlocking characters. Like, I still haven't even made a full-on dent in this game. It's insane. And I've been playing it a lot. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's the only thing. So I don't know about the unlocking. The only thing I would say is one of my most hated things, unless it makes perfect sense, is locked character.
Interesting. So
when you say you're unlocking characters, so my belief is this: if I play Soul Calibur, right, I hate unlocking weapons. I know this sounds weird. It sounds counterintuitive, but I'm more of a virtual fighter fan, where you get what you get moment one, right, and from that point on, it's about how you use what you get from moment one. Gotcha. So I'm a little bit different of a player. When you unlock in Smash Brothers, though, how many do you start with?
8.
How many characters are there total?
Like 70 plus.
Fuck. How often do you unlock those guys?
So I played the classic mode. That takes about 10 to 15 minutes for each run. as you go through like each character's kind of, I don't say story, but their
own
ladder
arcade.
Of right. And it's interesting how they do it. For example, when you play as like Ryu from Street Fighter, they only make them stamina battles, so that's like both sides have health bars that go down instead of like in Smash where the percentages just go up and then you just hit them off the stage. This one's all health bars, so it kind of tries to channel the Street Fighter music into the game, or the Street Fighter DNA into the game as much as possible. It's interesting. So they don't get too repetitive, but yeah. So pretty much like every 10 to 15 minutes, you're challenging a new fighter, and hopefully unlocking something, because the challenger approaching battles were pretty hard. If you lose, you can go to a certain part of the menu that has a challenger approaching icon. You click on it, and then you can re-challenge that person. If you win, you can challenge another person if there was an option to challenge another, because sometimes you'll like fail 2 challenger approaches in a row. So if you win that first one, you can do that second one that you fucked up on. But there's a timer to it, so every 10 minutes it unlocks again. So some folks have gone back and like closed the app out, reloaded it, and then tried again on a fight. And some people, I do it this way, just I'm like, the game's fun as fuck either way. Like, I have so many characters I want to play, and I'm not gunning for that just one character, because I know how I am with fighters. I think I always, before the game comes out, I'm gonna be good with him, and then the game comes out and I'm good with the complete opposite person. So I'm very non-picky when it comes to rosters when they drop. I like the idea of unlocking them. It brings me back to a day where fighters did do that often. That was the thing. I don't personally take kindly to fighters that have everyone there day one. I get why they do it. I just think that it gives you a reason to play and learn the game over time through single player and engage in some of the modes, and it gives you unlocks. Whereas a lot of fighters nowadays, it's like you get roster day one. That's fine, right? Like, if I get why it's there. It may not be my favorite design choice, but I get why, and I understand why people like it. But then you start seeing like characters locked off for DLC, and it's like, what happened to unlocking characters and doing challenges? And that's what this game kind of brings back, which, yes, there's still going to be DLC to pay for, but before that, I'm unlocking myself without exploiting, like some folks have done, 70 characters on my own, just putting my work in, and I like that a lot. I get why folks don't like it, because some folks are buying it saying, I just want to play as Cloud from Final Fantasy, and that's it. I don't want anyone else. And when the fuck am I going to unlock Cloud? I get it, right? I don't argue that. It's just I feel like this was smart for them. You have so many characters, and I feel if you open that menu and because I've seen, my friend has all 70 plus. If you open that menu and you see all of them like right then and there, dude, it is so many icons. I'd be surprised if you knew who was in the fucking game just looking at that screen right away. You just forget the whole roster, looking at it, be like, whoa, okay, that's a lot of data to take in. I think it's better how they started it. The original 8, and then just roll it out over time.
Okay, that makes sense.
Just my opinion. Anyway, next on the list, we've got Ashen and Below. Karak, this is all you. You wanted to give some impressions. I'm going to be picking up Ashen soon. Like I said in the beginning of the show, we're going to be playing this together at some point in time. Below, I don't know a thing about. So let's hear it from you, Mr. Reviewer. What do you think about both these titles?
This is the most painful day of my life, Daddy. Ashen has a huge number of problems. And so let's talk about multiplayer for a second. So in multiplayer, you basically create your character in the game, and he looks a certain way, and you're able to play the game solo or with a computer character. If you want to play with a person, you can have it do multiplayer, and then that's random. Whoever's around you, it just connects you. Or you can do a filter. So I would give you my number, Nintendo friend code kind of thing. You would be able to join. The first problem starts, the game has no tutorials whatsoever. So what you find out halfway through is that in the village, you can't spawn a friend. But the game makes all your friends look like your AI companion. So you won't know if you've spawned a friend unless you're talking to the friend on like Discord, and there's no voice chat. Voice chat's removed. So you have to use Discord or something else for voice chat. So imagine this like town, and you go out and you join up with your friend. You give them the code and you keep summoning them, and boom, they show up, and you're like, swing your sword so I know it's you. They swing your sword. Okay, we're playing together. Unfortunately, the boundaries of the town aren't exactly the boundaries of the town. And there's a bad guy that's on a cliff near there. And when you go there, if you're at the edge and you swing your sword will go into town and you will disappear from the other person's game instantly. So we were fighting. Yeah, because it drops you instantly.
Wow.
So if you go into town, person's dropped instantly and you have to resummon them and everything all over again. So we were fighting this hard guy. And I was getting ready to heal, and Abzy was playing, and he swings, and I see him go like, he's got this big double-handed mace, and he's all, whoa, and it gets to about here, and he just goes, oh, and he just disappears. And I'm there by myself, like eating a gourd, going like, oh, fuck, because I was expecting Abzy to take him while I was healing up. So I defeat him. It takes us another 5-10 minutes to get him called back into the game. Even though he knows my filter, it doesn't happen automatically, nor does it happen.
Is it like Dark Souls where you use like summon signs or whatever?
A little bit like that, but you push a button and they come.
Okay.
Then you go to doors. Now, doors can be opened one of two ways. One, you can buy a talisman, which is insanely expensive, which allows you to open doors that require two people with just one. So you can turn off your AI companion, you can play the game completely solo, but it costs a shit ton of money. Or you have the AI companion help you, or a person. If it's a person, what we did was we opened the door. We put our hands in this fucking thing. The door opens up. We're like, yeah, we're going in our tunnel. We go in. He clips through the floor almost instantly and dies. Like almost he's walking and he just disappears. He's like, oh, dude, I fell through the floor. I'm falling underneath a level. Boom. He's dead. The door shuts, and now I can't get out and he can't get in because he's alone. So the only way for him to get in is to summon his AI friend to get back in the door. To get back in the door, to do that, he gets inside, but now that's an instance, and now he can't summon me into his, even if he turns off his AI companion. So I would say in 40 minutes, the first 40 minutes of playing, we disconnected 30 times. More than 30, probably. And this is rife. Like, this is something you see. And I posted about it on Twitter, and they literally responded to me in seconds. Their help group was like, we hear you're having problems. Because I was mad. I was like, this is legitimately frustrating. Going together is fun. But it's so janky at times, and because it is a Dark Souls style game, there's a lot of death. Every time someone dies, they're immediately ejected from your game.
Okay.
So if you do almost every place you go, even if you're good, somebody will be throwing spears, another person will be casting a spell, and another person will be hitting you. It's very easy for one of you guys to get caught on something like a tree, get hit, die. You have 2 deaths. You have 1 death, and a person can resurrect you, and then your second death, you're gone. And you spawn all the way back at town, which means then you have to trudge all the way back to the fight, fighting all those guys in your game before you get to my game area. And then you have to actually say, I'm at this tree. What tree? The tree next to the orange shrub. Well, where's the creek? Oh, it's to the right of me. Okay, I think we're in the same spot. Try to call me. You call him, nothing happens. You go, okay, fuck. Go forward 10 feet. Try again. And it'll be like, boom,
very
then it'll pop up.
orchestrated invite system.
Yeah, and it just really became overly frustrating. I believe this is going to be patched, Matty. Like, there were so many people, there were reviewers who were still liking the game but complaining about it. I can absolutely see them saying, okay, we need to make it much more obvious. Additionally, because the NPC looks like your friend, and your friend looks like the NPC, there's a lot of people complaining, going, this fucking NPC is going nuts. He's running off. Well, that's not the NPC. That's actually a random player entering your game. And it doesn't tell you. Wow. So, like, Joe Bob, if you don't have a filter, will just enter your game and run off and do his own thing. And then you can't be healed. Because he needs to be there for you to get that healing for your 2 lives. So, graphically, it also had some issues. I'm playing on the Xbox X versus the PC. There were still some frame rate issues. Battle is very typical Dark Souls dodge.
See, that's amazing, because the frame rate, because don't they like have no face models at all?
Yeah, so they used a Gouriard shading kind of thing, which is where everything's rough hewn, like Mount Rushmore.
Yeah.
Kind of thing, and everything's grayish. What they did do, and it's a boon to them, is they did a lot of special effects. Unfortunately, A lot of them are based particulate, cloud, smoke, and those are a Z alpha based, which is hard on video cards, and that's what you're noticing. So it looks good, but then you get this like smoky area, and that's
like
when
you
you're
look
like,
at the smoke, it just gets choppy.
Yeah, and you start going, and then it's choppy, and you're fighting a guy where, let's be honest, you don't want it to be choppy because they only have to hit you 2 or 3 times, before you're dead. It's not nearly as difficult as a Dark Souls, at least from what I've played. Like in Dark Souls 3, I think it was, the first guy you fight, maybe the second or third, is like a sort of a mini boss with a spear. And I remember one of my friends is like, dude, I fought him like 6 times. He was new to Dark Souls. He's like, I just keep getting almost one-shotted. I'm done. That doesn't happen in this as much. But it's also insanely complicated in where you can go. It's almost like, imagine Dark Souls after playing 10 or 11 hours and getting all the shortcuts back to your bonfire, right. And they're everywhere. And so you're like, okay, I need to go over here to do this, but do I go up and over this way, or do I go around? And you'll go up and it'll be a flat wall.
Kind of reminds me of Darksiders 3. Like there's some moments where it's actually very connected. It's connected in a well manner, but yet there's other times where there's platforming puzzles to get to that next. It wasn't a bonfire, but where the Revenant guy pops up and tries to sell you things. Like it felt like it wasn't well thought out in certain aspects. So it sounds like this game struggles from it in another angle.
Yeah, and so that's exactly. So I had the same complaint with Dark Souls, where visually it wasn't the best at telling you, like, this is climbable, or this is where you need to go, or this blah blah blah. So there's all that. Is it fun? Yeah, but it's highly frustrating with all those problems. And especially because the game does require 2 people for a lot of stuff. Opening the doors, all that kind of thing. Traps. Some enemies will grab you from the ceiling and instantly hammer you into the ground. And if you don't, I think you have to hit, I can't remember, there's a certain button, but you have to hit it like pretty much before the first attack or you're dead. Okay. If you don't, it's like it pounce, and it kills you. But if a friend's there, they can hit it. Mm-hmm. So the game seems, it's weird because they kept saying, oh, it can be played solo. And in many ways, I think it would be almost easier because there's less chaos that might occur. But at the same time, some of the enemies feel based on 2-player, and your AI ain't the best. So if you do have AI, you turn multiplayer off, you turn your filter off, and you're just doing AI, he can attack the lower level guys, but once 2 or 3 guys are in an area and somebody's throwing spears, there's a good chance that dude's going to drop. Like that just seems to happen.
Interesting. You see, I was just about to ask if you could actually get away with playing this by yourself.
Yes, but I personally believe the best way to do that would be to buy that talisman that allows you to do everything with one person. Yes. You could definitely play this by yourself. And I know a lot of people like it, and I'm not even disliking it. It's more just almost like bugs for Far Cry 5, for example, where you didn't have many, and I did, and it affected my...
Well, I did have, for Far Cry.
Sorry, no, it wasn't Far Cry. What was it? You said it earlier. Dishonored 2.
Yes, yeah.
So that's the issue I'm dealing with right now, is coming to grips with what I sort of expected because of talking to the developers so many times and what I'm getting. So I don't dislike it. It's just cumbersome. It's far more cumbersome than Dark Souls, I will say that, when it comes to getting people in and keeping them in. That's the weird part, is the instant disappearing and how everything works is just, it causes you to constantly be like, what are we, how are we even supposed to really go about anything?
It makes you paranoid of trying to get settled in for a session.
Yeah, and really even feeling like it's gonna work. Plus, there were a couple disconnects that I don't think there was a reason, because we were walking through the forest one time and Abzy just disappeared, and I was like, "Where the fuck is he?" And then my AI guy ran up over a hill, and he had replaced Abzy. Wow. So that's Ashen. So it'll be interesting, and I would still like to play it multiplayer, but it would be something you and I would have to really be aware that the frustration level can be quite high. And I think somebody like you, who's like me, who has played these games, played Darksiders, had the same problems with Darksiders that you're going to have here. Then you add the multiplayer oddities. I could see you really not liking the game, to be honest.
Interesting.
And that's hard for me to say because I've covered the game for a long time. And then Below is hilarious. It's hilarious. I don't know any other way to describe it. Dude, your character, I am not lying. He is this fucking big in the game. And so there's no way to zoom in. And so, like, we were playing, we had 3 people in Discord streaming to each other their screens so we could tell, because it's a single-player game, but we all wanted to sort of experience the same thing. And in their video, they also were giving me their cameras. We're all like this. And like, there's traps that are these little tiny rocks. And if you hit them, instant death. Spikes come up out of the ground. And you're just like, oh, no. So that one I liked musically, thought it was some of the best music I've heard all year. And in fact, if we did soundtrack, you know, of the year, that could definitely be it.
Right.
It is a rogue kind of game, so if you die, you start back again. It is also Dark Souls-ish in that you unlock shortcuts that go back, so that's cool.
That. I thought it'd be more like a journey or something.
No.
Interesting.
No. It's definitely while it's not difficult to defeat most enemies, it is certainly easy to die on a trap. So there's like this weirdness
traps,
to it.
And you can barely see your character. That doesn't sound like a good combination at all.
And here's the thing. The first enemies we saw, we only got to the level 4 of the dungeon. The only enemies so far we have seen are squirrels and jewels with legs. That would be the easiest way for me to describe it. So it's very
with legs.
Yeah, they're like red rubies, like a giant, almost like like. Did you ever suck on those candy rings when you were a kid?
Oh yeah.
That's exactly what they look like, and you have to smash them and kill them. And so, it's this odd game that I had a blast because I was playing with friends, even though it was solo.
Mm-hmm.
I was playing with them, and they were like, "Oh, this room has this," and you'd be all the other side looking for the same thing, like a key, and you'd be like, "Oh, thank God, okay, you know where it is." So then you trudge all the way back. Enemies respawn when you die, all that kind of stuff.
Fun.
A lot of it's light-based, but there's some fucking awesome bits. So, for example, every enemy you kill, you gain a little bit of light. The light can be used to light campfires on fire. If you have enough of them, you can then make the campfire blue, which is the respawn point from that point on, which is cool. So instead of the boat at the beach all the way at the end, you can start, respawning inside the cave. But also, the light can be dropped like M&Ms for a trail. So you'll go into a place and you'll be like, I want to go through that door, but I'm going to go through this door first. So you run over to this door and you drop a bit of light, and you have a number of them, 50, 60 of them. So you're like, I'm drop this light here, so I know I haven't gone there. And then you go up, because it's that confusing, because the game is very, like, there's a lot of fog. The grass is as tall as your character a lot of times, so it's hard to see things. So a lot of it is obfuscated as you're playing. And so dropping this light helps a great deal to, like, track where you've been. And in fact, one guy was playing it differently. He was playing it with us. He was playing it by dropping light everywhere he had gone. So if he walks into a door, he'd drop light there, and then he would go into each other door, and as he came back, he would then drop light there to say he had gone there. So you could play it either way. And you don't have to do that. I just really like that mechanic. Got one attack and a bow, and it probably has the worst bow aiming I've ever seen in my life. It uses the right thumb to aim, and it's fucking 800 miles an hour. It's like, imagine like aim acceleration turned to 100.
Oh boy.
But like your reticle is just doing this the entire time. There's a lot of oddities for it. I think for its price, and it's Game Pass, which means $1 right now, because I think Game Pass is on sale for $1.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's insane. I think that people should definitely try it. Music's amazing. Graphically, the world looks really interesting. But I think that the lack of being able to zoom in, I mean, everybody I've talked to is like, are you kidding me? Like, I can't see anything. And I think that's going to be a big negative against it for gamers. I don't know if reviewers will feel that way, but I think gamers will. I think a lot of gamers are going to have issues with the view.
Gotcha.
So.
Interesting. Well, that's Ashen and Below. That's all I've got written down for for topics.
I think that's all we had.
It pretty much is. I think we kind of briefly teased our thing. We talked about the major news. We talked about games.
Oh, Borderlands 2 PSVR.
Oh boy.
Did you know about that?
Yeah, I had heard about that, but like it was kind of one of those. I All right. It reminds me a lot of the Wii U or the Vita. Like, okay, it's really late and it's here. Sure.
Yeah.
Why
Come
not?
on. You need to get it. You need to get PSVR.
I mean, eventually. I feel like PSVR will be like my entry for it, just because it seems like, I know it's on PC too, but like Beat Saber, Astrobot is apparently really good. Skyrim. I just loved archery in Skyrim VR, but
yeah,
this could be kind of added to the list.
What about EDF? Do you ever play those? They're some of my favorite games ever. Earth Defense Force.
No, I haven't played those.
Oh, dude. Because number 5 came out. It's just so stupidly fun.
Really?
So fun. Yeah, it's just basically up to 4 people on the same screen or online B-movie. So like you've got your guns, there's hundreds of soldiers on your team, and you're fighting, like 1 second you're fighting massive 900-foot robots. The next it's UFOs, then it's giant ants, then it's giant spiders, and it's all about like, it's almost like all B-movie moments come into a game, and they're destroying the city around you, and you have to basically fight them off. You have a ton of classes, and then hundreds of weapons, like just hundreds, and you unlock them as you go through it. Huge games too. I mean, they're like, hundreds of levels. So
wow,
very very cool. And that came out day before yesterday, I think.
I'm gonna have to look into it. That's so many surprise launches this month, man. I did not expect to be talking about so many new games leading right up to Christmas.
Yeah, it's insane.
Like it's just
and
competition.
Game Pass, right? Ashen's on Game Pass for $1. So it's like Ashen and Below both. Like what a steal. Like, what a cool deal. Yeah. So amazing.
How long does that last? Just like one month of Game Pass for $1?
It lasts a long time, bro, because I'm pretty sure they keep dropping it to $1, because I know I have people on my Discord who are like, I bought it for $1, canceled instantly, and found another deal at another store for $1, did it again. Like, I know people who the most they've paid is probably $6 at the most.
Game Pass for $6.
And yeah, and like we went and looked yesterday. We spent a long time identifying what games like we wanted to play and stuff like that. And there are a shit ton of games. And then if you add like EA access on top of that, subscription services be damned and they suck. But man, Game Pass is something else.
Game changer.
Like, yeah, for $1. I mean, you can play Ashen and Below for $1. Like that's
on top of any other Xbox exclusive that's come out. So Forza.
Exactly. Forza's in there.
Yeah. And
Forza's expansions today. Yes, Forza's Tropical
does that
Jungle.
come with Game Pass? No, right?
DLC. Oh, that's actually probably correct. You're probably correct.
Yeah,
it probably does.
That wouldn't make much sense. Does. Interesting.
But does it make sense right now? No. So it may happen.
True.
Who knows?
True.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Anyway, we hope all of you enjoyed episode 182 of the H.A.M Radio Podcast. Be sure to let us know what you think in the comments down below. Thank you so much for supporting the show. So much love for you guys. And we will catch you all next week.
Peace out.